Hi, and welcome to our Monday meditation. And as with all this new technology, we're learning new skills and new things to do. And so I really do pray that you're going to find today's video edifying and the rest of the videos as well. I'm at my home and enjoying this afternoon, some coffee, and it says, be positive. And so I hope you are positive today. I know today and this week can get down. It can be really frustrating and full of anxiety and fears, but please be positive. God is in control. And so take comfort in this. And I think this psalm may be helpful to all of us. So without further ado, let's get right into this. This is from Psalm 142, a maskil of David when he was in the cave. A prayer. With my voice I cry out to the Lord. With my voice I plead for mercy to the Lord. I pour out my complaints before him. I tell my trouble before him when my spirit faints within me. You know my way. In the path where I walk, they have hidden a trap for me. Look at the right hand and see. There is none who takes notice of me. No refuge remains to me. No one cares for my soul. I cry to you, O Lord. I say, you are my refuge, my portion in the land of the living. Attend to my cry, for I am brought very low. Deliver me from my persecutors, for they are too strong for me. Bring me out of the prison, that I may give thanks to your name. The righteous will surround me, for you will deal bountifully with me. Psalm 142. This psalm really reflects what's going on with King David. The word maskil could really be a psalm for instruction or just maybe it's a setting, a tune that we don't quite know, that was kind of faded into iniquity, or not iniquity, antiquity. And so we don't quite know exactly what that means. But this is the psalm for this past Sunday, and I felt like it was rather reasonable for us to dive into. David here is fleeing from Saul. If you remember the whole context of Saul was king, and then David's to be king because Saul has, in a sense, departed from the Lord, and now Saul has basically pursued David, and now he's in a cave. He's in a cave, and he's not happy about this. This is not a pleasant experience, running away and trying to find some kind of safety and security. Certainly he has his mighty men with him, and there's been some skirmishes and stuff like that, but David's really trying to be faithful to the Lord. He's not trying to just go outright and kill Saul. And there's some beautiful scenes where David has all this opportunity to actually kill Saul, but he does not take it. But certainly there's a great sense of anxiety and persecution and fear. I mean, can you imagine living in caves and not knowing what your next day will be, your meals and everything else, and there's people out to get you. And so that can be very, very fearful. And so he says, I cry to you, O Lord, I plead for the Lord's mercy. I pour out my complaints before him and tell him all my troubles. David then calls out to the Lord in this time of anxiety. He calls out and pleads to the Lord that God would listen to him. And I think that's really important, that God wants to hear us complain to him. I have to say, no one likes complaining, right? I'll pour out my complaint before God. I'll tell him my trouble. Now, as a good friends, we like to hear our friends bring us their troubles and hear them and help them and comfort them. That's a good thing. But complaining, think about that we actually complain. Like, I'm going to complain to God about this. I'm so irritated. I'm so upset. I'm so distraught over this. I'm going to complain to him. I'm bringing my complaints before him. And it shows this sense of urgency. It shows a sense of, for David, this idea that he's just so consumed by what he's facing right now, and he's going to go to the source, the one person he knows for sure that can actually do something about his complaints, about his troubles, and to actually bring about comfort. And so we begin in going to the Lord, going to him and bringing out all of our troubles. Jesus says, lay all your burdens upon me. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. And so we go to Jesus and we go to God the Father for all of our complaints, all of our troubles, all the things that we struggle with and face. Verse 3 is a really cool one. When my spirit faints within me, you know my way. In the path where I walk, they have hidden a trap for me. And so David here, he's talking about God knowing his way, and we see that that way in which that David can go. And so not this like he's asking that God would reveal a new path for him or a new direction. But he's really asking God to basically say, walk with me in this journey. You know what's going to happen to me around the bend. You know what's going to happen tomorrow and the next day. You know my way. You know what's going to happen. So be with me, because my spirit is fainting. It's growing weak. It's melting. And I think sometimes you felt like this week, where you just don't know what's going to happen. You just feel overwhelmed. You feel like your spirit is just faint and drained, that there's something just draining all your energy. And I know that, for myself, I felt a little depressed lately, just kind of like, oh man, what's going on? And all of these things that, shifting entire gears into an online kind of ministry, and all these things. So the stressors that come with that, and David saying, you know where I'm going, be with me in this journey, Lord. You know what's going to happen tomorrow, you know what's going to happen the next minute, walk with me, you know my way. And if there's any traps hidden, they've hidden traps, these enemies have hidden traps, be with me, protect me, guide me on that. And then he says, verse 4, look to the left, to the right, and see, there's none who takes notice of me, no refuge remains to me. No one cares for my soul. And this just really shows the depravity of it, that he feels alone and isolated. Now I think about it in terms of that he's lost, and he's in a maze, and just alone and utterly alone, and cannot know where to go. So he knows that God knows where he needs to go and where he is going, but he feels alone. That his friends, that the people that pray for him, he feels alone. Maybe he is with people, and we know that David is with others, but that sense where you're around people, but you feel completely, utterly alone. He says, no refuge remains to me. No one cares for my soul. And he says, I cry to you, O Lord. I say, you are my refuge, my portion in the land of the living. And so he turns to God and calls to God and says, God, you are my refuge. You are the one of the living God. You are the one that has guided me. You're the one that has been with me. You are the place where I belong. You're my refuge. I may be in a cave and feel safe and secure from all the dangers that a cave protects from, but his true refuge, his true place of comfort and peace is not in these worldly things. I mean, he has his mighty men around him, but truly it's God. His faith and trust in God, and knowing that God will be with him. Knowing that God's glory, God's grace, and his mercy are so much more powerful than anything in this world is critical for David. And that's why he says, my portion in the land of the living. Attend to my cry, for I am brought very low. Deliver me from my persecutors, for they are too strong for me. So he recognizes that their strength is greater than his. But he knows that God's strength can overwhelm all those things. Bring me out of the prison, that I may give thanks to your name. So he's calling upon God to really bring him up and out of this situation, that God would bring him out of this situation into a new one, where he is surrounded by the righteous. Verse 7 says, the righteous will surround me, for you will deal bountifully with me. My brothers and sisters, this is a time in which we trust in the Lord, that God knows all things. He knows what's going to happen to us next week. He knows what's going to happen tomorrow and everything in between. And he calls for us to trust in him, that he is our refuge, that we look to him and seek that refuge and strength from. And he indeed will surround us with the righteous. He will protect us and guide us and give us strength in his grace, love, and mercy. So that's my prayer for you. I pray that you would read this passage for yourself, and maybe read it every day this week as we go through whatever the Lord knows that we will go through, and take comfort that God is indeed our refuge. Blessings to you on this Monday. See you tomorrow.